Has Wizards of the Coast put the final nail in the coffin? Is this market about to pop? When you start looking at any one company, there are going to be highs and lows from everything from manufacturing to retail. Mistakes are made. The question is, has irreparable harm been done by that company that the brand fades away into nothing? Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks again for hanging out with me on the channel today. I know this video is going to be hard for some people to take, but I'm going to save you a lot of time by giving you my answer right away and then explaining how I got there. Is the market going to pop? No, it's not. Is the market going to zero? No, it's not. That was the easiest way of explaining to anyone who just wants to watch the video and leave. Don't worry, the market is safe. Now allow me to explain. When you look at companies in the past, or even entire countries, I think in 1998, Russia went bankrupt. Iceland has gone bankrupt. In 2008, Lehman Brothers lost $645 billion. They lost it all. So yes, countries, major banks, guys, anything can go to zero. The Roman Empire ended. It can go to zero. Things can end. But is this market going to zero? Is Magic the Gathering ending? No, it's not. Now allow me to explain. The acceleration that we have seen since Throne of Eldraine, I guess 2018, when we got our first collector boxes. And then we had Zendikar Rising, box topper cards, and we had the first set booster boxes for the collectors, because they had less chaff inside, remember? And the price was like $2 or $3 more. Since then, we've seen accelerated growth in many areas of Magic the Gathering. And that is alarming to a lot of players. It really is. They're finding it very hard and very difficult to follow all these lines and even keep up with the new products coming in because it's just too much. And I understand from a lot of those price-sensitive players out there and the fireside chats and all the 30th anniversary stuff that this does seem like a very low point in Magic. Reminds you kind of like Chronicles back in the 90s when they first printed Chronicles and it got all those players mad, and that's what formed the reserve list. Okay, I know it feels like that. But the good news is, with all these new products, some will wither and die on the vine. Wizards of the Coast changes product lines all the time. We don't have From the Vaults anymore. We don't have theme boosters anymore. We don't have intro decks anymore. They kind of get mothballed. They get stopped in creation. A lot of these products come and get tried. And if they're good enough and the players are enjoying it, they stick around. If not, they die. But that's not the death of the market. The fact I can still take some cards off the back shelf here, walk down to my LGS and say, hey, how much trade-in will you give me for these cards? And the fact the store would still give me cash or trade-in is always a good sign that the market is healthy. Because that means that store, even if they're only giving you 50 cents on the dollar, they are willing to put their hard-earned money that the store has generated, and they got employees, overhead, rent to pay, utilities, insurance. They're willing to still give you money for the cards. That is a very good sign. Now, when they pause the buy listing during the 30th anniversary and they wouldn't buy anything in cash, they would take trade, I understand how freaked out people got. And that's what can cause a market to collapse. That itch that something's gone wrong. That's when people make a run on the bank. So if everyone right now, everyone who had high-end collections or even mid-range modern collections, commander staple collections, tried to all run down to their local LGS and trade their cards in for cash, like you would do at a bank, how do you think that would go? Yes, that would cause a collapse. That would. But guess what? That's not going to happen. Because unlike a bank, who only carry your cash as your product line, Magic's a game we play. It's not just Beanie Babies sitting on a shelf. It's not a Funko Pop in the background. And it's not hockey cards from the 90s. You actually play the game. Not only do you get to play the game, there are different variations of cards being produced all the time. And although some of these variants bother me, they are a diverse amount of cards that allow players to collect certain areas of the game that they enjoy. If they like a certain card like Atraxa, they can get different versions of Atraxa. If they like a snaring bridge, they can go after the different versions of ensnaring bridge. That's up to that player to decide. And if those cards don't sell and the price drops, then Wizards of the Coast knows not to print that. It may take them a while to get there, but more and more, I can see how this market is going to react over time. And that's why I don't believe it's coming to any type of shortfall ending. It's just not going to happen. Yes, they're overproducing cards. And yes, they need to draw that back and dial back a little bit on the overproduction. Because I think they have shed a lot of players and they've lost some of their customer base permanently to other games, to other hobbies. And let's face it, 2020 was a very weird time where we all had more time to indulge in our hobbies. I never saw more Warhammer 40K painting videos in my life, and I still love every single one because some people who can paint like that are amazing to watch them do it, okay? Being able to go back and look at old D&D collectibles and stuff I used to have as a kid, maybe buy a few, it led to a run on a lot of these hobbies, including Magic the Gathering. Some of the stores reported their highest earnings late in 2021 because so many stores weren't open, a lot of products were selling. Yes, tournament play suffered. And yes, Wizards has to get on to a real reformatting of how they do tournaments. I think they've got to go more of the broad range, Canada versus US. You got to get some competition in there, and you got to stick to one format as your overall, this is the major format. And you got to have some kind of multi-team game. I'm really big on this. I'll probably do a video on it later, but the market itself, the fact it's going to survive isn't just because of the products coming out. It's the fact that you have players who collect it and still play it. It's not just one audience being appealed to, because there are some players who collect and don't play. And there are people who play and don't collect. But there are so many different audience bases. You have the top 1%ers who will buy the highest end of Magic possible, okay? And I'm not just talking power cards. I'm talking they're the ones who are going to buy Commander Masters by the case. Then you've got those mid-range players who maybe have some odd pieces of power. They bought some dual lands. They're trying to build up a new Commander deck with a lot of high-end cards. It's taken them years to assemble it, and they're almost done. And then you got the new players coming in who maybe are just buying the odd booster pack, showing up at a pre-release, and maybe playing Pauper and stuff because they don't have large funds. But because you have all these different diverse groups playing the game at different times, in different formats, in different venues, it's just such a wide range of a customer base that even if one area dries up, it just adapts and fills in another area. So when I think of this game as losing some customer base, yeah, that's disappointing. But that doesn't mean, again, that the market will end. Because no matter what, you're going to have players who will remember this game, and they're going to want to collect it, they're going to want to play it, and they're going to want to have pieces to remember from their childhood, from when they played in their 20s. And when people sell a collection off, which many of us have heard tales of friends selling collections, and they walk away from the game only to come back after 7 years because they got an itch to play again, and they dive back in, and then they remorse and say, oh, I remember when I had all these cards. Oh, what happened? Oh, it was awful. I sold everything off. I should have kept my cards. I sold them to pay rent. I had a bad medical bill, but now things are better. I'm going to buy these cards back, even at the new inflated prices. That's how you know it's still a healthy market. Yes, it's lost players, but it's healthy. And that can be, I know some of those people out there just want it to hate on it and want it to end. I just don't see it that way. I see mistakes are made all the time. I see the company doing a bad job in certain areas. But the fact that they're still giving us full new production lines of cards, and they're still selling all the time, and people look forward to new sets, and there's talk about it, and there's content creators like me putting this stuff out there, that tells you something. That tells you how things are being seen. So for anyone out there who thinks they should just sell their collection and walk away, if enough people did it, it would cause a panic. It would. Because LGSs don't have that kind of cash, and because this is a collectible game, it's not backed by anything. It's collectible. It could go to zero tomorrow. But you'd still own the cards. You'd still have the game to play. And that's the interesting thing about this game as well, is there doesn't have to be a secondary market for the game to exist. Right? This game could end up in a Dollarama 20 years from now, still being played by millions of people. Or it could be a high-valued card game where you're going to see these collector pieces show up. Here in Toronto, you see them at the ROM. They're going to be in the Royal Ontario Museum for Fine Arts section. This is the game that Richard Garfield created in 1993, and here we are in 2062 viewing the original Power 9, and this is why these cards were created, and here's the playtesting images. You see what I mean? Like, we don't know where it's going to go. But I'm not willing to waste my time selling my collection and losing everything. When the market's low, like we're seeing right now, this is the time people like the Moxman, this is when I buy. This is when I add to my position, and I do it quietly. Maybe I mention it to my patrons on the Discord, but I do it quietly. Not every time you see a big rumbling or big things being done, there are a lot of people out there saying, yep, this is the time to consolidate and build my position. Because when people think the market is at its weakest, that's when the people who can outlast the market. What's that rule? Staying insolvent and all that? The market can act crazy longer than you can stay solvent. And the last thing I want to leave everyone with, and the reason I think we'll be okay, especially long term, the magic market is not inherently liquid. When companies go out of business, it's because of money, right? There's a money problem. The cards are already made for magic. Liquidity is the issue. And because these cards are not naturally liquid, they're not easily sold anyway. They were bought as collectibles. Their price is whatever somebody's willing to pay. Which means a lot of collectors and investors and players who buy them and bought them at a certain price point will never let them go for less. And a lot of players out there have no intention of selling their collections, only adding to them because they are a collector. So all these pieces put together just show you where the magic market is at. It's going to have mistakes, it's going to stumble, it's going to fall, but it's going to pick itself back up and it's going to stand upright. I don't recommend selling off collections. I don't recommend selling off something you've worked so hard to get and paid top dollar for, whether it's reserve list cards or new cards. A lot of players buy new Commander staples, they buy new cards, and don't forget all the industries that are supported, by the way. You have the card sleeve manufacturers, the guys who make the play mats, the tubes we hold our cards in, the special protectors. All those companies create this stuff for the Magic market as well as other TCGs. But it's all part of Magic too. When you think about how big the machine is, it's not likely just to stop churning one day and go to zero. Hold on to those collections, hold the line, and I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow for another great video. Thank you for hanging out here till the end of the video and allowing me to entertain you with my content. I'm looking forward to seeing your comments in the comments section. Have an awesome day, guys. A big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons of this channel for allowing this content creation to come by each and every day. Thanks again everyone for tuning in and hanging out with me. This is MTG Moxman and the amazing patron supporters. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, I'm still buying reserve list cards, guys. It's the best time to buy them right now. They're just so low. New products coming out, they're great and all. March the Machines, New Phyrexia, all will be one. Great products, don't get me wrong, but reserve list prices are just too low to pass on right now. And there are so many cards that used to be like 20, 30 bucks you can get for like $5. Yeah, you got to buy them now while they can. Anyway, thanks for stopping in. Put red in the comments section so I knew you stopped by.